Warning, in this video we will be talking about Destiny 2 spoilers, so leave now or forever hold your peace. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again. 17 story missions, 5 strikes, 5 kinetic exotic weapons, 7 energy exotic weapons, 6 power exotic weapons, 13 returning exotics, 33 armor exotics across 3 classes, 51 total exotics, and 38 new exotics. 7 new armor exotics for each class with 4 returning exotics. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, I want to be absolutely clear here. It is completely and utterly possible that this is not a full list. I don't see any mention of hidden exotics or time-gated exotics or quest exotics or raid exotics. It is entirely possible that this list is nothing more than the Xur Home Shopping Network list, and that there are things that we won't know about until we know about them, like No Time to Explain or Sleeper Simulant. That said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, once again, back again, more again, less again. For things like the story, for things like the strike count. This is it. And that Jesus Coon ending, where we get the magic sword, where we get to bang the silver-haired queen, where we in fact find out we are the Kell of Kells, the only legitimate heir to being Kell of Kells. We get to ride on Ahamkara, we get to fight zombies, we get to kill Gull, we get to take back the city, we get a new tower, the Traveler wakes up and ushers in a new golden age. Yeah, that's the thing. There is nothing more boring than a perfect ending. The only stories ever worth telling are those about struggles and loss, about the human condition, about love and life. They're about the human heart in conflict with itself. That's why the Book of Sorrows is so compelling to so many people. That's why so many people are drawn to the saga of Thorn and Last Word. That's why when you think Destiny lore, you think about Dredgen Yor, you think about Shin Malphur, you think about Jaren Ward, you think about Palamon. You think Oryx or Rasputin, you think Toland or Osiris. You think Eris, you think the Vault of Glass. You don't think about Shaxx teaching a bunch of kids how to play dodgeball. Moments of levity are necessary for any story, because it humanizes the characters. There's nothing wrong with the hero winning. We won in Destiny 1, when we killed the Heart of the Black Garden. But there was always something bigger and badder out there. The question was never, will we win? It's, how will we win, and at what cost? In The Taken King, we won, sure. But it cost us the Queen of the Awoken and her entire fleet. It was also the prelude to the events of Destiny 2, in which we lost the city. When you have the Traveler wake up and fix everything, which is inevitably what will happen, when your writers have written themselves into such a corner that they require a literal Deus Ex Machina to save the day, then that's just bad writing. It's uninteresting, and it devalues any and all struggle or loss. The heroes didn't win, God did. The Traveler shouldn't wake up. To me, that's just a cop-out. It's the easy thing to do. It demystifies it. When you explain the trick, it's no longer magical. When the Traveler can come in and save the day at any point in time, the stakes are no longer high. Even if the Traveler goes back to sleep, it woke up for one crisis, it will do it for another. The Traveler should have remained a mystery. Something we're always trying to figure out. A remnant of a bygone era. A monument to our past, even if that's our sins. But something we must overcome. Having the Traveler come back and usher in a new golden age. For characters like, say, Ikora Rey, who tend to be more religious, there's no character growth here. Her prayers were answered. Her God came back. He woke up and saved the day. But, moving forward. When Destiny 1 launched, it launched with a bunch of really cool and iconic exotics. I don't think anybody's gonna argue that. But as the game progressed, the exotics seemed to just get worse. Something, again, I don't think anybody's really going to argue. Now, I won't be talking about the exotic weapons, because we simply don't have enough information at this time to really get into them. Graviton Lance, for example, seems really fucking awesome, But you've got to ask, how's that actually going to work in PvP? Is the last bullet really still going to do 500% more damage? If so, I mean, that's kind of broken. Another really good example is Vigilance Wing. It's a 5-round burst pulse rifle. How's that work? How's that rate of fire? What's the damage scaling? Point is, we don't know enough. The Vigilance Wing could be horrible in PvP, but crazy good in PvE. Even if at first glance it seems to be more oriented towards something like Trials of 9. That said, we do know enough about classes and class abilities from our time with the betas and with Destiny 1 to judge abilities. People who have really dug into competitive build theories with anything like RPGs, MMOs, or card games know what I'm talking about. Do it enough times and you get an idea for what's good and what's bad in any given environment at a glance, provided you understand that environment. And that's why we can talk about the exotic armor. Because we do have a good idea about that environment, or at least the environment the developers are trying to create, and what they've done to create it. That said, for the sake of time, I will not be going over each and every exotic. There will be relevant links in the description below, you can check them out and form your own opinion. So, if we look at all the exotic armor pieces, the first thing that we're going to notice is most of them are kind of underwhelming. And they're very redundant. There's some really good ones, don't get me wrong, like Doomfang Pauldron, or Hollowfire Heart, or Celestial Nighthawk. There's some all-around okay utility ones, like Dune Marchers or Stompy E5. And then there's shit. Like the Peacekeeper, which reloads your stowed SMG. An exotic, which reloads your stowed SMG. That's it. That's all it does. An exotic reloads your stowed SMG. Because reloading takes so long. In fact, what's the cooldown on this? Because reloading the SMG may actually be faster. You see what I'm saying? This is top of the barrel, by the way. We haven't even gone to the bottom. Hunters, they get this thing called the Dragon's Shadow. Sounds cool. What's it do? Well, it gives your weapons a short burst of better handling speed after you dodge. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's your exotic perk. That's all you get. And the poor warlocks. Oh, you poor bastards. You get 2 helmets that basically do the same thing. One's for Void, one's for Arc. You get the Crown of the Tempest, which increases your recharge rate of your Arc abilities when you get Arc ability kills. And then you get Nazaric's Sin, which gives you ability energy when you do Void damage. Couldn't they just roll that into one helmet? Give the Warlocks something else? Titans have a similar issue. Peacekeeper, like I just said, refills the ammo on your stowed SMG. War Rig, an exotic chest piece, will steadily replenish ammo in your auto rifles. That's it. Couldn't they just, I don't know, split the difference and make them the same exotic? Like, when an automatic weapon is used, SMG or AR, there is a chance that a portion of the clip will be returned after doing X, and if stowed, it will automatically be reloaded. I mean, these are exotics. They're exotics. You can only have one at a time. These perks seem like what you would find on legendaries. Bungie, we couldn't get more creative than returning abilities we lost from Destiny 1 going into Destiny 2, and having several different versions of recharge your ability by doing X, but for every flavor of subclass, and damage typing. I get the argument people are inevitably going to make.
But Joker, this is for balance.
It's one I've seen on pretty much anything when you argue that, hey, Bungie's nerfing the power of the player character for no reason whatsoever. But they're doing it for balance. That being said, my argument really has nothing to do with balance and everything to do with the fact that most of these exotics just feel like padding. There's so many exotics that do basically the same thing. It's not creative, it's not fun, and it's not interesting. It's very much so, oh, look at this exotic I got that also speeds up the cooldowns on this, that, or another ability. Only this time, it's arc, or void weapons, or something like that. Yay! Or, yay! I got a Destiny 1 subclass ability that no one ever used! Yay! Sure, this isn't all of them. That's why I called this padding. Others have some utility and some do seem genuinely interesting. But there is a lot of padding here. I don't think anybody's gonna argue that. Watch, somebody's gonna argue it, but they're wrong. And it's unfortunate, because the exotics could have been a real game changer for Destiny 2. These aren't. Moving right along, we have the return of the Taken King subclasses. So, for starters, the subclasses are basically the same as their Destiny 1 counterparts, only if they had all of their perks taken and divided between 2 possible builds, with virtually no overlap. The hardest hit has to be the Night Stalker, which seems to be a reoccurring theme with hunters in general. All of their subclass trees just seem to kind of be a hot mess. In the case of Night Stalker, its PvP perks are mixed with its PvE perks in both trees. And I can't see anything that's really optimized. That said, I'm not too terribly familiar with the Night Stalker outside of PvP, so I could be wrong. It just doesn't really seem all that optimized. I'll go ahead and leave the link to the subclasses in the description below. You wonderful ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, go ahead and tell me what you think so I have that information for my review. Stormcallers actually seem to be making it out fairly okay. In fact, Attunement of Ion seems to be one of the more standard builds. And they do get that increased melee range. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. Warlocks, like hunters, needed something. I mean, every Titan class gets shoulder charge with some really cool added effect to it afterwards. Yeah, that seems a little unbalanced, so giving Stormcallers the ability to melee from 10 miles away, you know what, might balance things out. And then we have the return of the King. See, when Sunbreakers were first introduced with the Taken King, entire teams would quit games the second they heard that ting. The tinging sound of the Sunbreaker about to devastate an entire map. It didn't matter where you were, if you were on the map, you were dead. That's pretty much how Sunbreaker went until it was nerfed into the ground. The Sunbreaker's reign was short, but terrible. It was hit with the nerf hammer pretty hard, pretty quickly. Probably quicker than Bungie has ever nerfed anything in the history of the game. And now, they are back again, once again, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm reading this right, in the first tree, they get shoulder charge. But not only do they get shoulder charge with Melting Point. In Destiny 1, anyone debuffed by Melting Point takes more damage. A lot more damage. So they get shoulder charge and Melting Point. Then they get hammers that when they hit an enemy, that enemy explodes and does damage to everything around it, like a Firefly effect. And then, with Volcanic Rage, if you miss with your hammer shatters into explosive, molting embers on impact. Making me think that this is kind of like a non-tracking version of the Hunter's Secret Grenade that will be really good for area denial. And the second class, Siegebreaker, is no joke either. This is essentially the, I am going to hold the line in this one spot, and I am not going to give the enemy an inch. This is the Scorched Earth Active Deterrence class. This is it's a PvE DPS superclass. All it's built to do is essentially make sunspots and stand in those sunspots, and then get the ability to make more sunspots while throwing hammers. Oh yeah, and if you're standing in a sunspot while throwing a hammer, which can also make a sunspot, then your hammers last longer. Which is something the class can already do, but nobody builds it that way. Overall, I think Hunters will be somewhat disappointed. Warlocks will be okay, they'll be happy, I think. Stormcallers might have one or two issues, but nothing game-breaking. But really, I do think it's Titans who are the ones that truly win here. Leaks are always a tricky thing to cover. I can look at the information and give my honest opinion about it, but there's always a caveat, which should be understood by all, but apparently isn't. We're looking at this stuff in a vacuum. How does this look? How does it sound? What's your gut feeling when you read this, that, or the other? We can then take all of that knowledge and cross-reference it with our experience in multiple fields, and then extrapolate what's most likely to happen. That's when I talk about something like story, I talk about the plot points. I talk about how those plot points should work in a literary fashion, not how they work in the game. Granted, the game should follow some semblance of literary logic, but in regards to actual implementation, it could be entertaining, or it could be an utter dumpster fire, or worse, it could just be boring. Being a concept guy, being a guy who works on a lot of conceptual stuff, I know when I hear a good pitch worth my time. I also know when I hear a bad pitch not worth my time. Destiny 2 seems to be a mix of both. For example, one of the strikes is called Savathun's Song. For me, somebody whose entire channel started based on a theory about Savathun, this is huge. So I start asking all the relevant questions about what this means for the lore, what this means for my theory, how is this going to be represented in game, how are they going to talk about this, how are they going to show it, is this going to be a really interesting strike, is it going to be a generic strike, are we going to get this Darkblade weird kind of hybrid strike, is this a misleading name? And to say that I'm excited about this strike is an understatement. You literally had me at Savathun. That's a concept I can get behind. But then if we take another example, the exotic armor, I don't see anything I want to grind for. There's things that I look at and I go, well, this will be good, this will be necessary for endgame content, but nothing I see and I'm like, oh my god, I have to have that. The main story for Destiny 2 seems like it might be a wash, but it also might have some great moments. The side quests and the lore quest all seem like they'll be interesting and they sound like my type of thing. PvE might be a little bit underwhelming, but during the PC beta I found that I actually really enjoyed where the PvP was going for the most part. Then again, that's when I was playing with friends. Solo queuing seemed to be one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had in gaming. The removal of Rumble does not help that. That said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, those are just my first impressions on leaked information. And I so desperately want to be proven wrong. Will Destiny be the first intellectual property in the history of human civilization to actually get the Jesus Kun Deus Ex Machina Mary Sue story right? Who knows? Anything's possible, I guess. But good, bad, indifferent, complete and utter dumpster fire, utter train wreck, garbage, trash, whatever Destiny winds up being, could be the best game in the world, who knows? I'm excited to see what happens. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, my fellow Guardians, stay frosty.